Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Good morning. Welcome to the HAE's fourth podcast, and by far the biggest podcast. I've got three of you to manhandle this morning. Pretty cool. So, for our listeners, just to explain who we've got in the room today. So, we've got Instagrid. We've got Matt O'Hara from Instagrid.
Morning.
Charlotte Evans. Good morning.
Good morning.
And Sally Wray from GoHire.
Hi.
Yeah. So, my three guinea pigs for today. So, as I say, this is our fourth podcast. You've all come in today to talk us about the Instagrid one, which hopefully all of our viewers can see, and for those listening on Spotify won't be able to see. So definitely an interesting product to talk about, all about sustainability, portable power, and the way forward, and obviously how hire companies are shaping up to bring their carbon footprint down. So I think, first of all, what I'd like to do, just very briefly, we don't need to go into War and Peace, Matt and Charlotte, and well, yourself, Sally, because I think your story is really interesting. Just give everyone, our members, just a brief sort of potted history of your background from the Instagrid point of view, and then from GoHire. So over to you, Matt.
Yeah, well, thanks for having us. It's great to be in Leeds on a sunny day to go through this. So Matt O'Hara, I'm the sales director for UK and Ireland for Instagrid. I've worked within the hire and manufacturing space now for quite some time, so I've got a bit of experience in clean energy, innovation and technology from the hire side, but also from the manufacturer side as well. But I've been working around energy and sustainability for close to 10 years now.
Right.
So this is, to be part of a product like Instagrid right now in the current climate, it's really, really exciting. And hopefully my experience can kind of bring the product forward into the UK market. So
for your time over 10 years, you must have seen it change drastically from when you first...
Yeah. I think at the early days, it was looking at like in renewable liquid fuels that were at that point, the new kid on the block, or the new alternative to diesel petrol combustion engines, and looking at alternative fuels that we could drop in to replace them and obviously reduce carbon, LPG, hydrogen, HVO at that time. And then it was just been an evolution of change over that period, or you just, you change jobs, you change companies, you change strategies, spent quite some time with Sunbelt Rentals as head clean energy sales. So, implementing clean energy technology into the market. So really kind of pioneering stuff. Say, I used to use this type of engine, or I used to use this type of technology.
Sure.
Why don't you try this?
Yeah.
And the reason behind it. So it dovetails nicely then into working with Instagrid, which is solely a clean energy product and an alternative to something that's been there for 50 or 60 years.
Good. Thanks, Matt. Charlotte, over to you.
Yeah, so I head up the UK marketing for Instagrid. Background not too dissimilar from Matt's, and I've been in the hire business for 15 years. Spent quite a few of those years working with clean energy, whereas Matt's been focused on the selling of it. I've been supporting on the marketing of it. And again, have had to support on that message of changing away from what everyone is used to using in the combustion engine generator space, and convincing them that clean energy is a commercially viable solution to switch to. It's not only good for the environment, but there are many other benefits that come with it as well. And joined Instagrid 7 months ago because it's a fantastic product. I couldn't say no to it. My background was from Sunbelt Rentals. Yep. So to go from supporting 25,000 products to just 3 products seemed like too good an opportunity to miss.
Yeah, good challenge.
Very good challenge.
Good challenge. Yeah. Thanks, Charlotte. Finally, Sally.
Yeah, so Sally Wray, owner of GoHire. I've had GoHire now 10 years, and we, I'm not sure how many months ago, but decided to invest in the Instagrid as a new offering, a new line to our customers who are predominantly businesses.
Just so for our members, so GoHire, small independent business, whereabouts you're based?
We have 2 branches in Hull, one in Grimsby and one new one in Hornsey now.
Oh,
so Hull, East Yorkshire, North East Lincolnshire.
Good. And obviously you're going to later on this morning talk to us about how you've integrated that into your hire fleet. Yeah, perfect. Excellent. So Matt, Instagrid is not a name that some members probably would have heard of.
I've heard of Instagram.
Instagram. You've got it. Instagram. So
Instagrid, yeah.
give us again a background. Where did it all start? Instagrid. What's it about? Who started it?
Yeah.
Where they're based? Just sort of fill the blanks in.
Yeah, so Instagrid has been around for nearly 6-7 years now. It's a German company.
Okay.
It was originally set up by Sebastian Berning and Andreas Edelmar. They are doctors in chemistry and in technology associated with batteries. They previously worked for Bosch. Pioneers, engineers, incredibly talented people.
The clever people.
Really clever. The guys that are in a room and you just, talking about things you have no idea. But yeah, really, 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 really great guys. And they started the business, and they obviously brought to life a product in Europe, which is a 230 volt Instagrid 1, which was basically, they saw an opportunity that the market was not addressing the major problem of millions and genuinely millions of small internal combustion engines.
Okay.
Not the ones that are just in a car or in a large vehicle, the ones that are speckled around sites, whether it be on construction or even leisure, events, festivals, local councils, they're everywhere. And they saw a need to create a solution that was portable, powerful, and that could ultimately replace an internal combustion engine in that particular zone. And that's what they did. So they put hours and hours into building code and software to ultimately design a product that could do what a generator could do, but clean.
Okay.
So they set the business up in Germany, and that was 6-7 years ago. And they, on the premise that they wanted to make an impact, which they have done.
So you mentioned the word impact. What does that impact look like? So obviously you're in the UK.
Yeah.
Is it across Europe? Is it worldwide?
It's the impact's different for everybody, for sure.
Yeah.
So some people want to make an impact because, they want to reduce carbon, or they want to improve clean air in a certain area, or some people just want to give people energy, a clean type of energy. I think with Instagrid, it covers a whole spectrum of different, levels of impact. So it'd be impact for their employees to do a great job and work in an empowering company, whether it's produce a product that's now making an impact in various different verticals across the world, giving people power, but doing it in ultimately a clean way.
Yep.
And genuinely clean. So there's no if, buts, or ands. The energy that this produces or provides off a mains power supply after recharging it is clean energy. So it's brilliant. That's what they've done. Definitely.
It's a unique product. When you hand it to me this morning and I put it on the windowsill there, I mean, it's 20 kilos. It's not very heavy. So it's packing some punch for the size of it.
Yeah, it depends what gym you go to, really. You know what I mean? But it's a 20. It's a dumbbell, isn't it? It's 20 kilos for but it's portable. You can lift it. You can move it around. There's no constraints to it. The weight doesn't stop you bringing it to a certain place. Whereas if you compare it to I suppose what it's replacing, which is a generator, you can't lift a generator, a 6-7 kVA generator, or even a 3 kVA. They're too heavy.
Yeah. Sally had to walk from the car park with it, didn't you, this morning?
Yeah.
But you did, though, didn't you? You walked from the car park with it, and it was no big issue for you.
I've been working out.
I have to say, my 9-year-old son saw one at the weekend for the first time, and he was able to pick it up. You could never imagine a 9-year-old picking up a generator. So the fact that he could move that is quite amazing.
I can't really say that I got my 5-year-old to do it, but she might have lifted it.
So you've sat here very quietly. You've not mentioned something, have you, Matt and Charlotte?
Right.
You won an award.
We did.
Have, yeah.
Yes, we did. We won HAE Product of the Year.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. We're very proud of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think so. I joined Instagrid in April 2024, so just over a year now with them. And since joining it, it was definitely an ambition to educate the market on having the product within their fleets across hire businesses and end users. So I think it was a really nice reflection of the market to say that Instagrid's here now, and we've seen it around for the last 6 or 7 months, and we've experienced it, and it was justifiable to win the award. And there's been a lot of work put in to get it to that point.
It's a tough category. when you're up against some seriously big hitters in the marketplace.
Absolutely.
I know the judges every year when they're sat on that panel trying to judge it, it's just like, how can you separate it? But I think the key piece with that is so innovative and it is so different and it is changing the landscape of what hire companies are hiring to overcome that power supply issue away from conventional diesel or the small petrol engines.
Absolutely. I think when people talk innovation, a lot of the time everybody's like super keen to do innovation, and everybody wants to be, part of innovation and driving innovation and pushing innovation into their business, and rightly so. But there's a lot of blockers with innovation as well. In many cases, sometimes people will say it's too expensive, or does it work the same? Does it give you the same level of experience as an end user when you've changed from what is the traditional option to the cleaner alternative? We've seen that across loads of different products over the years. Some people have got it right, some people have got it wrong. I think Instagrid have 100% nailed on that it is exactly what's needed for the market right now in a particular segment.
Okay.
It really is a commercially viable, innovative solution that'll fit into any hire fleet. Anyone who hires plant, tools, equipment, and Instagrid will fit into that fleet. And that must have been a big driving factor in winning the award, and that its scope of what it can support, and it can support that sustainably is huge.
Yeah. Now, obviously, you're supporting the big national hirers out there that have it on their fleet. But then we go to the other end of the scale with Sally's independent business in the whole region.
Absolutely, yeah.
You've made that decision, haven't you? You've made that financial commitment.
Yeah.
To put it into your fleet.
Yeah, we've been thrilled actually with how it's been received. I think initially when we were first approached by Instagrid, as you're so often bombarded with new things on the market, and I feel a lot of it for a small independent like ourselves is unachievable. So an example would be when the electric excavators hit the market, we're not asked for them, they cost a fortune. We think, well, that's just it's unachievable for us, or that's how it feels. I think with the Instagrid, because we are wanting as a company to be early adopters, we want to be at the forefront, understanding what changes are happening and being able to offer our customers a full offering. So we talked about it, and I think we were able to we'd not been asked by it for our customers. So that was the first challenge, because you think, how
do I take a chance?
Yeah. And I often say the customers tell us what they want, we don't tell them. So this was a kind of leap for us, really. But working together with Instagrid, we found that actually if we can just get them to try it, and once they understand the benefits of not having someone have to leave site to get some fuel, for example, and on the way collect a paper and a sign, all the rest of it, and just having it there on site, and how easy it was to use and how powerful it was, they soon kind of came round to the idea. So we decided that this was going to be a good move for us.
Yeah.
I can't recall how long we've had them, and our utilisation rate is, we've got 10 on the fleet, and is at about 80%.
Well, that's good.
Yeah,
that's good.
Yeah.
Can you remember your first hire? Put you on the spot there.
Yeah, it was what we've found is, so the majority of our customers are businesses, so we don't do a lot with DIYers. So we kind of looked at the businesses, and we find that we've got a lot of people that work in social housing locally. They're not allowed, so if you're working in a council property, for example, you're not allowed to plug in to use their electricity. So often taking generators, trailing leads, fuels, noise, it's tricky.
Yeah.
And so we've got a few customers that do a lot of that work, or insurance work, for example. So they're in domestic properties a lot of the time. So that was our first kind of
toe in the water.
Yeah, we thought, well, let's speak to those customers and see if this is something that they're interested in.
Okay.
And ever since then, we haven't looked back. They've been really converted. We have had some skeptics, but I think as soon as we say, look, just take this for a day and come back and tell us what you think. And obviously we work closely with Matt and Charlotte, and they welcome any feedback as well. So it's been a really nice collaborative relationship, I feel, where we've been able to feed back in that, well, it's all been positive. So it's been a really good move for GoHire.
So you started with one Instagrid pack?
I can't recall.
You started with 4?
I think we started with 4, yeah. So we had
off the bat, good.
We had a customer called Thornton doing some social housing in the area, and it really aligned with their kind of efforts to become more sustainable.
Yeah.
And so we trialed it with them, and they were really happy with the outcome, and they've had them on, long-term hire now, and it's working really well for both parties.
And I suppose as a hirer, put myself back in your shoes, obviously I'm from this world as well, as the same as yourself. If you're hiring out a 2.7 kVA generator that goes out to site, you've got the chance of somebody the next day putting dirty fuel in, breakdown, pull cord snaps, breakdown. All these extra things that as soon as that happens, that's eating into your margin. Whereas that is just one solution. I'm guessing flick of a switch, mate. You're going to tell us in a second. Yeah. Plug in and away you go.
Yeah. I think Sally said as well, it's like, so most people know what they want, end users. I want a Hilti breaker. I want a diamond cordial. I want a saw. I want a whatever. And that's the kind of challenge at the moment, I suppose, from the UK. That's why the getting the award is so important to Instagrid, because it was like, we need to get to the point where people say, I used to hire 3 kVA, 4 kVA, but I want an Instagrid.
Yeah.
We're not there yet, because obviously we've not been around long enough. Generators around 50, 60 years, so it's going to take time. And it's people like GoHire that are making that change and helping us to get into the market, so that the next customer that comes into the depot says, I want an Instagrid. That's where we need to get to. Because the impact that the Instagrid is making, going back to that point of impact on a social housing customer as an example, aside from the cost assessments, the plant nappies, the fuel that could be stolen or it could be spilled, whatever the case may be, the pull start generator snaps on a cold day and delays the whole working process for the team that might be out doing, work in social housing, whatever that might be. But also it prevents having to access mains power, which is in certain demographics, fuel poverty is a big issue that businesses don't want to encroach on people that are living in the house, so that they have to use a generator. But that's not doing any good either, because it's creating carbon, noise, etc., etc. So I think it's just great to see that the market has accepted the fact that this is a tangible solution that will make a big impact.
Yeah, I mean, I think the award also helps with the credibility piece, isn't it? It's been recognised. It's been recognised as the way forward. So
absolutely,
it's all positive. Right, let's talk technical, Matt.
Okay.
So
best
in my mind, I'm feeling this is literally once it's been charged up at the depot. So you'll have a service schedule. You'll have them all ready charged, ready to go. So first of all, it's sat on the shelf in Sally's depot.
Yeah.
It's been sat there for hopefully not 3 weeks, not going out on hire. But let's just say, for example, that is the case.
Yeah.
Is it retaining 100% of its charge at that point?
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's holding its charge.
Yeah, it holds its charge. It usually will be sat in transport mode, and they can sit in transport mode for several years. It's not
Really?
Yeah. They're once they're sat in transport mode, they'll hold their energy. You can do periodic recharging on them if you wish, or whatever the case may be. But the technology is, I think, going back to the point I was raising earlier when I was talking to businesses previously about, clean energy solutions, I think there's been like a lot of legislation, a lot of emphasis on, okay, let's look at the big generators. So you take London as an example. They put in the NRMM zone, an initiative to look at 37 kilowatt machines upwards and say, okay, need to clean up for act here. You can't use stage 3, you got to use stage 5, but let's also use large battery storage units. Let's use flywheels and various other technologies that can reduce the emissions from large gensets. There's been a lot of work done in that space over the last couple of years. These really big tier 1 contractors and other contractors and other size businesses that are saying, okay, let's hybridize large gensets. What hasn't been done is looking at the lower end small petrol diesel generators. And I had a conversation not so long ago with a organization that is responsible for looking at sites and saying, okay, this needs to change. It's too big a generator. This needs to change. It's not the right compliant generator, blah, blah, blah. And they always felt uncomfortable going over to the 500 kVA that's sitting at the bottom of a tower crane and walking past 10 small generators that are speckled around site with cables running everywhere and making a lot of noise and a lot of emissions. Like one generator of that size, say it's 4 kVA, it's going to produce 250 kilometers worth of emissions if you're out in your car.
Yeah.
So they're pretty, they make an impact, so in a negative way. So I think the solution has always been difficult for that particular application because it's very, very transient, high power demand loads. So a welder, a breaker, a diamond core drill, an SDS drill.
I think with a big startup surge.
Big startup, it's very transient. Like you're squeezing a trigger, it's not always a consistent heavy load. It's just, but it could be a real spike. And what Instagrid have created, they've created a technology that can produce up to 18,000 watts peak power for between 5 and 10 seconds, depending on the temperature, which is huge in that particular space. That means you can put a T3000 on it, you can put an arc welder on it, you can put a diamond core drill, a 9-inch grinder, and it doesn't.
But it is the things like a 9-inch grinder, isn't it? When they literally pull that trigger.
Any generator would struggle with that demand themselves. I think you speak to an operator. I spoke to one in Silvertown in London. I think there were Carey's or Clancy's or one of those businesses that were working on site. And the operator, which is the person using the tool every single day, was giving us the best feedback because they're the ones that experienced the tool. He was using a 9-inch grinder and 52 mil rebar, which is about that thick.
Yep. He
said normally we'd have to transport the generator across the site. We'd have to run cable, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And it's awkward. It takes a lot of time and, eats into the working day. Obviously use the Go36, which is our 110 volt product designed for the construction space. 9-inch grinder, and he said he didn't have any snagging from the grinder. It wasn't pulling, it wasn't struggling for power, because the Instagrid creates a perfect sine wave, so it's like grid power, giving immediate energy to the device, preventing the device struggling or requesting more energy to get through whatever it's doing. Mm-hmm. And it just creates a much better experience for the end user with no limitations to the performance. So it's actually improved what they've done before. Used to use a generator for 50 years. Well, actually, this is better because it gave me pure instant power.
Wow.
There. And that goes down to the inherent technology. So you've got 24 modules.
Okay.
Each module has 6 cells. There's 144 cells within the device. And each module is then controlled by software. So we use microinverters rather than large inverters. We use microinverters and software is the brains behind the technology.
So the microinverter, is that something separate to other manufacturers that make similar products?
Yeah, it's unique. Microinverters have been around before. They're not necessarily a revolutionary innovation, but it's how they're being used and they're being controlled by 500,000 lines of software. So there's 500,000 lines of software. Okay. So it's like your iPhone, so they can be updated over time. We add updates to them, regularly, and that allows the energy to be pulled from the cells in a clever way to create demand, and it also ensures that we're not, degrading the batteries. We're not just slamming the cells over and over. It's pulling the power in different ways, and that gets you to the peak power that you require on site.
Okay, so that comes back to Sally's depot. It's done its day's work.
Yeah.
It's, 30% charge left.
Yeah, less than 2.5 hours. It's back to 100%.
Okay.
Off of a mains connection, molded.
Just normal 13 amp.
13 amp molded socket straight into the wall, like you would your laptop, connected into the bottom of the Instagrid, and away you go.
Okay.
And to recharge from mains power, your average bill, you're going to pay about 50p per charge.
If you're on a bad tariff.
If you're on a bad tariff.
Wow.
You might charge for almost 27p.
Again, putting my hirer's head back on again. Once Sally's bought the machine, running costs wise, servicing, maintenance, what have you got to do apart from plug it in? It doesn't seem.
Yeah.
Seems pretty straightforward to me.
Yeah. So obviously we do. As a hirer, I think.
Check for external damage, I suppose.
Yeah. But there tends to be, there tends to be looked after. You used to put a generator out, and they're all battered and covered in cement, and people stand on them, and it's kind of like the Instagrid. It looks nice, and I think people tend to treat it more
like a walking bus.
Yeah, and it's quite ergonomic, and it just doesn't seem to get messy like you would,
It's very robust. It is very robust. Obviously, the frame lends itself to being thrown in the back of a van, but without the body of it being damaged.
I think as if it's kind of suitcasey, though. I think people's behaviour around it is slightly changed because you kind of you just put it in the back.
It's helpful for the camera, Matt. Can you just sort of turn it on its side, on its end there, so you could just see the other end, what we've got there? So we've got, so you've got two 16 at 110 volts.
You can have a 32 come out as well.
Right, okay.
So you have a little dog lead that comes out that can be a 32. But yeah, they're very robust. The design on the actual unit that we would put onto the field as well, they've got some casing around the sockets to prevent someone knocking on the sides. Yeah, Sally's right. There's not a whole lot of maintenance required. So we basically, what we would say to GoHire is obviously maintain a consistent kind of charging cycle. Once they're back in the depot, put them on charge, and and to turn it off, etc. Once you're done, visual inspections, anything else. So if they happen to knock the casing off or broke a switch because someone dropped something heavy on it or dropped it off some scaffolding, they're drop tested to 3 meters anyway.
Wow.
But if someone really hurt the device, because they work in a very demanding environment, as you know, construction, it's brutal for a tool. A tool's life cycle is not fun in that world. They just give us a call, and we have our own UK repair centre that we bring it in. We can fix things and bring it back to the customers. That's not a problem,
Okay.
We've just released as well now this year an extended warranty for our customers because they're so reliable.
Okay.
They're so reliable.
So we're sat here in Leeds today. It's probably going to be the hottest day of the year so far. Let's turn it on its head and let's go back to January. Sub-zero temperatures on site with one of those. Does that reduce the battery runtime by much?
No.
I'm thinking about the electric cars. Everyone moans electric cars. The range drops when it's cold.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. We have an operating kind of temperature window of like sub minus 25 to right up to the late 30s. We did a trial in Italy with the Moto E, so the electric motorbikes, and they were being used to heat the tires on track. Temperatures get really hot there, obviously tarmac, etc., and they performed they didn't skip a beat. So they're very, very robust in that regard.
Wow.
And thankfully we don't get below minus 30 in this country. It's a pretty harsh environment to be in anyway. Yeah. I think they'd still do okay for you.
Okay. So you mentioned other products. So this one is which one is that classed as? That's the.
So I'll go through it. And so we've got the Instagrid one, which is their first flagship product that was the business was built on.
Okay.
Which is 230 volt.
Okay.
Now, as you know, in the UK, we've got different voltages. We've got 230 volt for everything outside of construction. So that's TV, film, events, that kind of thing. And then we've got 110, which is obviously the yellow sockets on a construction site. Sure. So we've got the Instagrid one, which is 230. We've got the Instagrid Go 36LV, which is basically, they're the exact same technology, the exact same product. 110 volt.
Okay.
We've got a link device, which allows you to link up to 3 Instagrids together. So it gives you more back-end capacity. So their rated capacity is 2.1 kilowatt hours per device, so 2,100 watts.
Okay.
So you can put 3 together to get to 6,300.
There you go.
I nearly fell over there. And then we have just released a brand new innovation just at the Bauma just recently. And that's our Link Max, which is the 400 volt version. So that's a 3-phase 11 kilowatt output, which is exciting. So that's going to allow us to do things with winches, with small, goods, not passenger, but goods hoists, that kind of thing. Big welders, big applications.
And important to point out, the Link Max will be compatible with the Instagrid One, so the 230 volt product,
3, which just gives you 400 volt output.
Okay. So everything that effectively is compatible.
Yeah. So you've got the 230 volt, the 110 volt, a link device for both, so they can be all linked together.
Yeah.
And then you've got your Link Max, which is your 3-phase option, where you put 3 230 volt batteries together to provide a 3-phase output.
Okay. We've talked about Sally's customers, and I actually do want to touch on some of the larger construction businesses that really are trying to get their carbon levels down. Have you got any sort of testimonials? Any customers you want to talk about? Anyone that's on a large scale that's taken it? I'm thinking HS2 that's come to my head. I don't know whether that is or not?
Absolutely.
No, it's absolutely being used on HS2. The most recent case study that we have done is with Bravery. They've been using it on sites throughout the UK. Amazing feedback. A whole range of different applications supporting your portable tools like your breakers, your disc cutters. They've actually, throughout the winter months, they've got solar CCTV and lights on the sites. And because of the reduced hours of sunlight, they don't always get a full charge. So they've been using the Instagrid to top up the batteries of the on-site CCTV, solar-powered CCTV systems, so that they can operate for a full night shift, which means they don't have to revert to fuel-powered CCTV or lights, and it's totally mobile. So it's just to take it, carry it over, recharge it, take it back to the central site at night, recharge it. They've been working near water, so obviously huge advantages over working with generators, which huge problems in themselves, plant nappies, spillage near water, and to power things like water monitoring stations, which again, they've been working on sites with in very environmentally sensitive areas. So they've got bats on site, mink on site, and it's allowed them to continue operating and powering site while adhering to all of the environmental constraints that they've got on their site. So yeah, it's got huge uptake and interest from the likes of Bravery.
Okay, good. What's the life expectancy, or is it too early to say yet?
I think it's too early to say. I think from a hire perspective, most would fleet for 5 to 6 years. We did like a white paper, that the Business Institute did a white paper off of EU grant funding, and they gave it to 100 businesses for a period of time. Strabags, large organizations that have heavy usage within the construction space. Because the devices have IoT, so they've got Internet of Things, so you can connect to an app and see all the state of charge. Is it on? Is it off? Where is it? Et cetera, et cetera.
So is that something that Sally could do? Or is
anybody, yeah.
Okay.
If you've got a device, you can connect into your app, and then it gives you all of the details, like what kind of peak power is going through the device, like how much energy is left in the device. You can set push notifications, say, oh, it's at 10%. You want to get ready to replace it or recharge it or whatever you might want to do with it.
Fantastic. So you can just contact the customer, and the customer doesn't realise that they're getting...
Yeah, well, it's all self-managed by the customer. So the customer has access to the device via Fleet Manager, what might be Gav or Tony in the depot, and they'll be able to like give access to Joe Blogs on site, and Joe Blogs will be like, oh, I can see what's going on my Instagram and see where it is and what it's doing.
That's cool.
So with all that data, we were able to understand the kind of habits of our customers. See, people don't understand, which I'm still struggling to understand to this day, is like what energy actually looks like in real life. So like how long does it last? It's very complex. Yeah. It's very, very difficult. As you can tell earlier, I struggle to count between 2 to 6. So, but that's the basic side of it. So it gets quite complex. So obviously, having data is really, really important to kind of get people to understand, like, if you use an Instagrid 1, you can do 32 holes at a diamond core drill at 150 mil. You can do over 3,000 cuts with a chop saw on 42.
Yeah, it's that putting it into perspective.
Yeah, it's just like it's hard to extrapolate what energy looks like in data, and how the biggest question we get is like, how long does it last? So like in a day, it's designed to do a day's work, but when we look at the data from that,
nobody works solidly for 8 hours, do they?
Well, you don't want to have a breaker, and like it can do 7.5 ton of concrete with one breaker. Now, I don't think you're even allowed to do that as an individual. You'd be kind of bouncing off of.
Well, your hand-arm vibration was your first problem.
Exactly. So Carl would know all about that from that,
Yes.
kind of certification perspective. But the data has allowed us to understand that the recharge cycle on a heavy user is 2-3 times a week. So someone that's really using it a lot, they'll recharge it 2 to 3 times a week.
Yeah.
Thereabouts, which means that if you extrapolate that over the lifetime of the device in Sally's world, that would be 5 years, 1,000 cycles.
Okay.
However, when we look at the performance of the cells, even after a long period of time, we don't see the degradation that you might see in a traditional battery because of the way the technology is designed and the software is controlling the cells. So we're getting longer lifetime out of the device. Hence why we're giving longer extended warranties. Got it. Because
you're learning, aren't you, as time goes?
Yeah, we're only 6 years old, so it's like, it's, and we're just about to launch over the next couple of months the impact report. So we have a really great sustainability team that have done incredible due diligence across all of the components, where everything comes from, how much energy we've saved, how many users have used it, and we build it into a report of how much carbon we've saved, where everything comes from, really detailed, and that got us a B Corp certification, which is huge.
Yeah,
not many businesses can achieve a B Corp. It really kind of demonstrates like we've done the whole life cycle of the device. We really look at it in full detail. And that's because 125,000 users have used it now globally. Wow. So mainland Europe obviously being the starting point, UK now into America. It's going to be impressive, this year's impact report.
Wow, that's fantastic.
Due in the next couple of weeks.
So Sally, what's the average length of hire that your customers take them for? Is it literally spot hires for a day, or they take it for a week?
It varies actually, because when I say the utilisation about 80%, we've got kind of maybe 6 that are at 100%.
They've just gone out.
And then I think our lowest is like 56%. But that's like a unit that maybe goes out for a couple of days, here comes back. So it's kind of our, our quick turnaround one, I suppose. Yes. Yeah. But it's still got a really nice utilisation. Yeah, spot hires, that's the word I was looking for, But we're finding that of the 10 units we've got, the majority of them are on long term.
Need to buy some more, Sally.
Well, yeah. That's a challenge, isn't it? As an independent, you have so many competing financial priorities. So we're really pleased with how that's going. We're really pleased with the relationship that we have with Instagrid. Full disclosure, I think one of our primary concerns was the lifespan of them, but actually speaking with the team, and that's obviously something that they're working at having that evidence or information, the reassurance that actually they do last. Because I think, like any hire company, you need to see when you return it. It's a long game, isn't it?
Yeah. Cool.
And so that's, we've always got kind of the eye on that kind of long term investment, and so we were kind of reassured, and we're not risk averse at GoHire. We'll give things a go, and like I said, we've been really thrilled and really pleased with how things are panning out, and we'd hope in the future to get more on the fleet as well.
Yeah. Matt, you mentioned the app. Yeah. So could you disable that machine from the app?
Not currently. Okay. So it's in the pipeline of improvements that we will do. In a perfect world, we would like to be able to geofence it and then remotely disable it. I think it's important. I think I read something last year. There was £93 million worth of kit sold in London. That's huge.
That's where I'm going with the company.
Yeah.
It's huge. It's horrendous. It's absolutely horrendous.
So 100%, it's in the pipeline to improve our IoT to a point where we can do that. I don't think that will take that long. It's already being currently worked on. Which will be a nice thing to have for sure. We haven't had the feedback has been that they haven't had many
tests.
Yeah, and I think it's because, like Sally says, where they're not just left outside. They usually go with the operator quite a bit because they're mobile and stuff like that. So, they're either indoors or they're kept in, and then they need to be recharged at night. So they're like the handheld battery operated tools. They go back to a compound and they're usually locked away for the night to be recharged. But it needs to be definitely something we'll work on.
Okay, that's good. So the UK market, how's it shaping up with Instagrid? Obviously, it's been very well received. You won the award.
Yeah, I think
it's growing.
100%. Yeah, we've had a presence in the UK for about nearly 3 years, and obviously for the first 2, we were waiting on them to develop the 110 volt, because when they came from mainland Europe into the UK, it was quickly identified as can't come to the construction site, it needs to be 110. So they have to rethink the whole thing. And although it looks similar to the European product and the 230 volt that we have in the UK, there's a lot of work that went into changing it and getting the voltage halved and doing everything they had to do. So over the last 6 months, I would say August to December last year, we had the initial samples that went out to the market, and we did some work with specific partners to kind of get everything going. It was done really, really well. And from Christmas onwards, we've really had 6 months of the market kind of using the product, and it's been really great, really, really positive. From a hire perspective, I think all our hire partners are really happy. We're getting new customers all the time. And we're just scaling it now, really. Like the end users are like Sally said, it's just trying to change people from saying, I want a generator to I want an Instagrid.
Yeah.
And then getting the odd person to not say Instagram and Instagrid instead.
They're going to
There's a bit of work there.
They're going to call it an Instagram. You just
but as long as they hire or buy, I don't really care.
Call it. Yeah. But it's changing that mindset, isn't it? Yeah, Charlotte, it's changing the mindset, and people it's the habit of, I'll just take another one of those.
Yeah,
and they'll just stop using a generator.
Yeah, I've been working for many years to try and help change the mindsets from generator to looking at battery technologies. It is a challenge, but nobody, to my knowledge, has ever used an Instagrid in place of a generator and wanted to go back to using the generator. Nobody.
Yeah.
I think the key for us was allowing our customers to trial it for a day or a week, even just to see how they got on with it, and they've really been pleased when they've brought it back. Like, that is brilliant. At the end of the day, it's quite pleasing, really, when they come back in and they're so delighted with it, because you don't often see a delighted builder.
You mentioned earlier, Sally, about decisions sort of being sort of customer led, but in this case, because it is such an innovation piece of kit, the customers, they're not going to know about it unless you take the plunge, buy it, put it on the counter, and talk to everybody about it that walks in the door.
Yeah, I mean, I was saying to the team at work, we're a relationship business that happens to do tool hire. We look after our relationships as best we can with our customers, and as part of that kind of culture, it's like, tell us what you want, tell us what we can do better, tell us what you need. We're very outward facing. So to kind of, from a GoHire perspective, say, we think that you would really benefit from using this, was kind of a new strategy for us, and we still have both. Like we've not down decided to start telling customers what they want. They keep telling us what they want, and and they're telling us that they want more Instagrids. So that's our our next
that's
step. So and the thing is as well, is you take a risk and you see if it's going to go down well, and once they get talking about it, and and they don't go back, really. Like Charlotte said, we've not had anyone come back in and say, can you just swap it over for a generator? I just think it's more of a pleasure to use. It's a bit like Apple, I've got my Apple, and other laptops available. When you've got a really nice design and it's just pleasant to use. I think that's a big part. I know that it's got all the other great things about it. It's just easy to use.
Yeah, definitely. My dad's worked in trade for all his life, so he used to say, good tool makes a job easier. And it's 100% true. You get a good tool, you get a good device, and if you got to use it every single day. And I think that's the key. But we really rely heavily on our hire partners, on the GoHires and Sally's, Gas and Tony's, that have been able to push it out there, and other partners as well. They're going to be the ones that will get the market's reaction. And I think it's like 85% of equipment on construction site comes from hire.
Yes.
So, they're going to be the ones that will influence the way forward. And hopefully a bit of legislation will help as well, where we can push it to be cleaner.
The last piece I want to touch on, sustainability.
Yeah.
So how recyclable is that? I mean, is it aluminium? Is it aluminium body with a rubber case or something?
Yeah, and then it's a plastic casing. Obviously, there's the frame as well. So the device itself is 93% recyclable. We have a process in place to take them back and deal with them. Our partners that can do that.
Okay.
But also as well, the innovation is like modularly designed. So it's obviously got individual modules. So in time as well, as the technology moves, I could anticipate our business being able to move with that technology without fundamentally changing the structure of the device. So if the cells technology changes, which is all the time, it's constantly moving, then we'll be able to move with it as well, which is super. And I like, one of the things I'd love to do in the next year at least is really kind of like find like a kind of sunsetting generators or retired generators program, to be able to say, rather than shipping small petrol diesel generators to an auction and then ultimately sending them to some
Faraway land.
Yeah, just kind of removing the problem per se is that we could probably look at like, you know, offering some kind of like scrappage thing and say, okay, give us your old generators. We can give you a deal and providing the space in the market for clean technology.
That's a game changer, isn't
You
it?
know,
to do
that would
that?
be nice to be able
Yeah.
to. So we're in the kind of I wouldn't say early stages. We're kind of working on a project now to kind of try and bring that to life. That would be cool if we could do that. You know, because the total cost of ownership of one of these devices, if you take 10 units, generators, 5 kVA, and you look at the total cost of ownership over a 1 year period, you'll be 22% better off.
Yeah.
On using an Instagrid. You do that over 5 years, it's like in the 60%.
For me, again, I put my HAE head back on. It's that downtime. It's the breakdowns. It's what could go wrong. Whether it's an oil alert switch, it's the pull cord, it's the wrong. It's all of those things that just eradicates the whole lot. It's either going to work or it's not going to work unless there's an internal fault. It's that, isn't it? It's as simple as that.
Oh yeah, I had a depot manager. They get so excited about it because they're like, oh great, I don't have to refuel or I don't have to take AdBlue out of the fuel tank because someone put AdBlue into it instead of petrol, or you know, oil changes, the snap cords, the list goes on. So it does make a real difference.
Yeah. Brilliant. Well, for me, it's plug and go for the customer.
Yeah.
It's plug and go for Sally.
Yeah.
It's sustainable, reducing the carbon footprint, and it's 100% the way forward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Can't
Brilliant.
disagree.
Thanks for your time today, everyone.
Thank you.
Good to see you. Thank you.